I'm talking now to Dörthe Eickelberg. She's a German TV host, actress, yeah. And she gives a master class here at the FMX. What is this class about?
It's about improv theater, so I'm going to improvise with animators. Shall I look into the camera or at you?
At me,
Okay,
and
good.
maybe occasionally the camera. So we don't have a cameraman, so it's just the camera there. Why improv for animators? Aren't animators more like shy and don't really want to do any acting in front of people?
Mm-hmm. That's why I think improv is good for animators, because there's this saying about animators being actors just that are slightly too shy to step on stage themselves. Improvisation can just give them more confidence to act out their stories.
Mm-hmm. And what could this improvisation do for the animators? How does it help them?
Well, improvisation and animation actually have more in common than one might think. For instance, in improvisation theater or in improvisation in general, of course, there are no natural rules, so there's no gravity in improv land. And the same counts for animation. You can tell whatever you want, right? You can create your whole universe. So that's the beauty in both disciplines, in both fields of arts, with the difference that in animation you need to plan everything ahead. You plan it with other people, but at the end you spend lots and lots and lots of time working by yourself at the computer, at the desk. In improv, you cannot plan. You improvise, and you improvise on the spot as you step on the stage. And it's a team play. So both these things are assets that you can use for your work, but only for your daily life, because you can, first of all, you can learn to think quick, to be more, flexible, creative, to associate on a very in a free manner, and at the same time you create these stories together with your colleagues. Yes. So there is no script, there's no second take, no second chance. You develop the story together with the other players on the stage, and it doesn't. When I do these improv workshops, we don't work on an entire play. We just have little exercises, and we often just start the scene, or we work on little bits and pieces. But it's actually amazing what kind of stories can come out of it, and how inspiring that can be. So you can take lots of ideas for your later stories.
Mm-hmm. So it's a device of idea finding, or would you also recommend it if you have like a fixed story and you need to act out a scene? Is there a way of using improv for that too?
I think in both ways. If you have a fixed story in your head, I think that's also a thing with animation. Being an ex-animator myself, I know that sometimes you get a little bit too brainy about it, right? You spend so much time at the computer that you lose touch to the story that you actually wanted to tell. And what in your heart you wanted to tell. And so by improvising, maybe with certain elements of your stories, you just pick a character, you just pick a feeling, you just pick an element in like a plot, and then you play around with it. And with the help of this playful approach, you can get new ideas and use it for your story later on. What I just did with participants of a workshop in India, I asked them to play out the most boring scene imaginable, buying stamps in a post office, which even in India can be boring because there's no bargaining in post office. And so they play out this scene in a neutral way. And then I asked them to play the scene again in the exact same way, just with a slight difference that before that I whisper them something in the ear. And for instance, I whisper them in the ear some mantra, or have a certain distance to the other. Like the one wants to be, like the one has to think of a distance of whatever, 0.5 meter, and the other 5 meters. And so by trying to be close to the one person while the other one gets scared by this, you can create so much humor in such a boring scene. Or I could also whisper them something else in the ear, like you just won in the lottery, or the other one stinks, or whatever, just by giving them a different motivation, a different emotion that is not obvious, the scene gets more depth. And so this is actually just an element that you can use in acting in general and that actors use, but you can also use it in animation, of course. I also work a lot on high status and low status.
What is that?
Well, we live in a hierarchic system, if we want it or not. Even on a private scale, we do, and we negotiate that status all the time. And there's so much. If you add a status to your characters in a story, you have a much more dynamic story at the end. But you need to be aware of these status shifts. They can change, of course. Every good story consists of this, the loser being the winner at the end. But and for this, you need to know how status works and how a positive high status works and a negative low status, or a positive low status and a negative high status. How do you create that? And once you know this, you can, of course, use that for your daily life too. Like, how do I approach my boss next time I ask him for more money, right?
I think the interesting part of this are also status shifts, like the moments where it's happening. The status is changed.
Yeah, there are also exercises which I use where I give my players certain status numbers, like the one is on top, the other one is below, and then there are the other players in the middle who need to balance it all out, and who do what the others say and then kick at the one below. So, but sometimes I twist the order as well, which can cause some funny chaos on stage.
You mentioned India, so you're doing improv classes there as well, or what is it what you do there?
I used to do a whole tour of master classes, just as Ed Hooks did, in fact. It was quite funny. I received an email out of the blue saying, "Hello, Miss Eickelberg, we would like to invite you to India." And I first thought it was spam. Turned out it was the Animation Festival of India inviting me to conduct a series of workshops for them. And when I got to India, when I arrived there, I actually found out that all these people, most of them working for that animation festival, actually are employees and managing directors of Rhythm and Hues.
Okay.
Well, I don't need to explain you who that is. And so I did workshops basically for the Rhythm and Hues guys and their friends and colleagues all over India, for the whole animation network, in Mumbai, Hyderabad, and Indore. And that was actually an intense experience, because normally I conduct my workshops for very small classes, because the smaller the better, because then you have a very intensive crowd, right? You can really work profoundly with each member of the group.
Nobody can hide.
Exactly, nobody can hide. But in India, where everything happens on a larger scale, I had groups of up to 50 people at the same time. But they were very, very supportive, very motivated, very enthusiastic. They clapped after every single exercise, and they were also very friendly to each other. Like, some people of the group were more shy, they didn't really want to play that much, but when they did, the others supported them so much by applauding them, by laughing out loudly. So that was a very, very nice experience, in fact. There are a few rules that you have to know in improv, and so the first thing is, it sounds very, very basic and easy, but it's actually not that easy to achieve. You need to be open. And you need to be open for the offer that you get, and then you need to be brave enough to give another offer. And so I spend actually most of the time of my workshop trying to get this sort of blocking behavior, this denial, out of my participants, because that's just a defense mechanism. People say no instead of yes in the beginning. That's quite normal. It comes with a certain level of inconfidence, and so you know, then I work a lot on confidence with them, and I work a lot on making them feel more at ease with each other and to enhance their trust level, so that they know I can trust my partners. You know, and with your friends, it would be the same. You'd need the basic rules. You'd need to know the basic rules before beginning to improvise together, and then maybe do some workshops so that you know how it works. And then, of course, lots of improv groups have been founded like this. They meet at workshops and then they team up and go on stage.
Interesting.
Or just use it for their daily life. That's the. It's a sort of a philosophy, right? Being open for each other, being brave to take responsibility for the scene. You know, giving orders instead of asking questions, saying yes instead of no. All these elements can also help you in daily life.
Thank you very much for this talk. It was very, very interesting. And yeah, we will have a look at her class later. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, Ferdinand Engländer.
Dörthe Eickelberg.
Cheers. The good thing about improv is that there are no rules. There's no gravity in the improv plan. And that counts for animation, of course. That's why, in the end, animation, film, and improv theater have a lot in common, because they can inspire each other.
The first things we did in the improv class were warm-up exercises. In this one, we just pass on a clap. It gets more difficult if this has to be done across the room, with eye contact connecting the two persons first.
Right? And what do? We clap together, right? You, and we clap at the same time. And then you pass it on to someone else.
Other exercises were meant to loosen people up. In this case, one person after another has to do, well, whatever, which then gets copied by the entire group. There were more exercises in that direction. In one, we had to pass on an invisible object. The person receiving the object could then transform it into something else.
Don't forget the sound, good. Shoot it up.
There were also trust-building exercises.
Put the backs to each other, like this. Yeah, very good. On the count of 3, you turn around and you either do the lemon or the lion or the giga girl bobbing boy, right? And then if you match, if you score match, then you can congratulate yourself. And if you don't, then you go like, hey, you had your idea, I had mine, but whatever. So, okay, on the count of 3, turn around and do one of these things, please. 1, 2, 3.
And then we got to do some acting.
What's the relationship of these two?
Mortal enemies. Sisters, of course.
Roommates.
No.
Professional killers.
Yeah, Kindergarten. Too long. Yeah, we're not gonna make it too complicated.
The frame always was just a vague situation, waiting for the bus in this example.
Did you do your homework? Okay. Yeah. Fair enough. Cool. Anybody want to play the bus? Pick them up?
In the next round, everybody got some special instructions that changed the improvisation a little bit, made it more interesting. The second situation was getting money at a counter in a bank.
Yes. Just put it under the. Alright, that's up to you. Thank you very much. Anything else? No. Do you have a paper? Thank you. Just number 2, please. Let's. Anything else looking for yourself? Alright, here's your receipt. Oh, I mean the bank? Yes. Oh, sorry.
Once again, silly instructions were given to spice up the situation a little bit.
That's number 2, please. That's number 2, please. Sorry, don't kill me. I haven't tried.
One of the funniest fear performances that I've seen for a long time. Beautiful, really. How about these guys? You can give them an emotion for the whole group, or also different ones for everybody?
The one in red fancies him, but he doesn't actually fancy him.
Okay, good. You fancy him.
But he fancies the other two.
Wow.
It's a love triangle.
The one in blue
And the
needs...
other two fancy each other.
Game board. Okay, how about a totally different emotion?
He can, you need to make a withdrawal for your alcohol addiction.
He's
No,
addicted.
the blue.
You're
Actually, you're right in real life.
To rub the bag. It's just
Ah,
like
nice.
measuring
Sure,
stuff.
but it's just in your head, right?
Wait, I will try to drop the bag.
No, you're planning. You're like measuring
Yes.
stuff.
Yeah, it's a research trip. Like, how does it work?
Just return. I will not.
Nice. Tune up the volume a bit if you can, so that we can all hear you.
Here's your money, Mr. Sanchez.
Thank you very much.
We have money. We give you all the money in your so that's what.
Well, you will. Yes. How many lessons? How many? Just singing.
Well, we have those we need, so we have 15s, we have 20s, we have 10s.
In the cough.
In the.
Yeah, in the place with items that no one can get signal. Let's make. Yeah, I mean, the place that you guys get the money.
Let's say 200 million pretty faces back.
Okay. I just want a bubble gum. How much?
Excuse me.
Does anyone that like have like more money? Maybe.
Well, nothing.
You're back. Cash please. What can you do with?
I can put it back.
Tune up the volume again.
Yeah, good.
I can write you a check for someone else. What was that, sir?
Is a glass degree here?
Have a nice day. I bought the 200 million. That's it. Damn.
Unfortunately, I couldn't capture everything with the camera, but believe me, a lot of it was hilarious. If you are interested in doing something like that, you definitely should look for an improv group near you, or even get one started with friends and fellow students. You'll find enough exercises on the internet. I apologize that I take so long to cut this parts, but it's a lot of material, and yeah. Tune in, have fun, take care, and goodbye.
In real-time mode, I already see all my expressions.
bring those drawings into our software where we can rig them into a skeleton. So we use a lot of the principles of sort of 3D animation as well.
If you push your colours into purple, then there's a really interesting effect that balances the yellow of the sunshine, and it has a really interesting effect that looks like late afternoon.